I'm very proud for what they do, proud for them. They really do it right in so many ways now these days that, things may not meet your, and we're not people with unrealistic expectations, but they really do come to the plate and do what you hope for them to do.
Dave and Leigh Tam have two girls who, as they say, are night and day as students. They both grew up at Rotherglen School, which teaches CASA to grade 8 at 4 campuses in Oakville, Ontario, and the GTA. For Dave and Leigh's family, though, it's been a second home. And now that graduation time is upon them, Dave and Leigh took the time to reflect with me on the gratitude they have for Rotherglen and the school they've come to know as Mini Hogwarts, for how it has helped their family and helped shape who their children are today. Right now, she's graduating without the physical space that's been so much a part of her experience at Rotherglen. Take me to that space. When you step into the physical school environment in pre-COVID days, what are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you hearing?
I'm just picturing first thing in the morning when all the children are arriving at school and the chatter, the happiness. There's always a teacher or multiple teachers outside to greet them. It's just a very strong community. There's parents greeting each other. There's children greeting each other. When you go inside, it is a beautiful campus.
It is.
It's always been clean, organized. Children know where to be when they need to be there. It's set up through academics, through the structure of the building,
yes,
that the children can be very independent from a very young age. Everything's been step by step.
That's right. That's right. Even the young ones who get in, they have little cubbies. Everything's very organized. They have their names set up, coat hooks and everything. They basically get themselves ready.
Which is sort of the Montessori way, which is when we started. We were looking for a Montessori school, but we also liked that they were transitioning out of that by the time they graduated, so that their opportunities for different schools were more open.
That's right.
And so those itty bitty little children that are 3, 4, 5 years old are quite independent for that age. Mm-hmm. So it's always been amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a rather distinctive building.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Our nickname is Mini Hogwarts, actually.
It's set up on a hill with a clock tower.
Yes.
They have the modern addition out the side that they just put in last year.
That's right. Lots of glass, lots of natural light.
In that new wing, there's a art studio. Right. There's the music studio. The science lab is over there. The new Learning Resource Center or Learning Success Center. The support center is there, where our grade 8 student actually spent a lot of time.
Right.
Thinking about both your daughters, what do you think that space represents for them?
They don't want to leave.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Our grade 8 student, she's ready to move on, but if there was a Rotherglen High School, she would have been very happy to just continue. But it's sort of like a second home.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's safe. It's a community. Yeah. All the teachers are so friendly, welcoming. The diversity of the students. It's just
as bizarre as it sounds, there are certain days they are sad to leave.
Yeah, they have their favorite teachers, their activities. They're just very secure and happy there.
Take me back to when your relationship with Rotherglen was just starting. What was the moment that set you on the path to finding, the right school for you and ultimately choosing Rotherglen?
We had started at a different Montessori for our elder daughter, which was great for the toddler age, 18 months to age 2, but she sort of outgrew that space, and we went on the hunt for somewhere else for when she was 4. And that's when we did on the school tours, which unfortunately for this year, for prospective parents, they may or may not be able to do because of COVID. But we went on the tours, which were excellent. And we did the primary campus, the Little Yellow School, as it's lovingly known. And it was just, I think it's 7 or 8 classrooms that are there. It's just very welcoming. And we love the Montessori way of learning,
Right.
step by step, increments that lead to independence.
Right. What we were looking for, I'm sure, as most parents do, you want a strong academic program, but equally as important to us was environmental respect. We want our children to, grow up in a very safe, very respectful setting, which this does definitely offer.
And I have character
Would you tell me
education.
more about that? I want to know more about that. One of the values of the school is civility and citizenship. Is this what we're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
It's,
tell me more.
Respect, courtesy. They have character education, which begins at the lowest age, and that continues every year right through to graduation. And when you first hear that, you think each month you're focusing on a character trait, and at first you just have to take a moment as an adult to pause and take that in. Mm-hmm. But they do focus on empathy. Yeah. What does that mean? What is it to treat somebody else with respect and to understand how they may be feeling? Yeah. Courtesy, respect, generosity is always one of them. Self-control is usually in September. We need to learn that early in the year. And so for the 10 months that they're there, they're learning just how to be good people. Right. Because beyond just having strong academics, you want your children to learn respect, diversity. The holiday concert is all songs, right? They sing about Diwali, they sing about Hanukkah, it's Christmas songs, right? Winter songs, right? Everyone is included, everyone is welcome, and it's lovely to see.
And a number of times as an adult, I'd go into the school, there'd be a tiny little one who would open the door for you and say, after you. And you'd say, thank you very much. And they'd say, you're welcome. So it's uniformly like that. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Respect, civility, citizenship. I'm thinking of all these ways that these things would manifest themselves within the school community and outward facing from the school community. Can you think of examples of when those values, they take them out into the community?
Absolutely. Every year sort of grows onto itself or builds onto itself. And by the time they're in grade 8, they're the leaders of the school. They have a leadership class. And they choose what charities the school is going to participate in. There's always a food drive. And by the time they're in grade 7 and 8, they're actually going out to the farm to grow food. They're going out this year, there's Bloom, because they can't actually get out to the farm. Families are actually planting seeds at home that they can grow and in the summer hopefully transfer to the farm and then get that onto people who need it.
That's right. Yeah, and this happens on a regular yearly basis.
Yes, every year. Yeah. So there's the Legacy Project. This year they did a lot of focus on, because of families struggling because of COVID-19, a lot of food bank and soup kitchen. And that to support the community has been right from CASA all the way through.
Yeah.
Now, I'm interested, you mentioned Montessori a few times. I'm wondering, for starters, was this something you set out to find or something that you found the right place and it happened to be Montessori?
I think we sought it out.
We sought it out. We looked at every type of daycare and Montessori. We looked at many places to find for an 18-month-old child. And so I started doing research. And once I was finding a lot of places that were not a good fit for us. And when I started hearing this word Montessori, I started doing research into Dr. Maria Montessori and how she set up the learning program, tiny incremental steps that any child can learn. And they begin that as a 3-year-old, and it just builds year after year. And it just made sense to us. Our daughters were reading when they were 2.5, 3 years old. Yeah. They could do addition and subtraction, but it wasn't stressful because it was incremental steps. There was no pressure. They were happy to do it, right down to practical life. It was just a nice balance between kids being able to choose their activities throughout the day, but not so unstructured as play-based learning.
Yes, that's right. They would allow your child to find themselves. It's not like molding your child into a certain profile. They recognize where your child's interests are, and they build on that.
And their strengths, and if there are weaknesses, they work on those as well.
Yeah.
So it was a good fit for us. We also like that in CASA, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are together in the traditional Montessori sense. By the time they're the 6-year-old in the class, they're learning how to lead already, and they help the younger children. The younger children learn from the older. And in grade 1, they transition into a classroom where you're only with 6-year-olds or your peers, but at this, which is not traditional Montessori, but it allows for specialized courses in computers, which wouldn't have been possible if you tried to keep everyone together. And they start library. They get more specialized classes incrementally as they go through with specialized teachers.
Right.
I'm wondering, as parents who obviously have a lot of experience in this area, if you could give me a definition of what, in your words, in a few words, what Montessori means to you.
Montessori to me means allowing, again, your child to flourish in areas where they are naturally more proficient at. It basically, as well, at the same time, understands that there are certain basic life skills that need to be imparted upon your child, and to kind of make sure that it's a good balance where your child is allowed to excel at their natural, areas of strengths, but at the same time, make sure that they have the basic skills to function as adults. And as well, there's the practical life aspect of the teaching with Montessori, where the children understand, the concept of just simple things. And when they're very young, pick up after yourself, respect your peers. If you have a problem, you talk together, you work it out together. So those to us are very, very important life skills. I mean, to me, it's one thing to have all the knowledge in the world, but you have to know how to use it in a very respectful and proper fashion, which I really feel strongly this type of educational system, especially at a very ingrained in a young age, or offered, at a young age, will allow your child to really, really develop into very respectable adults.
I would say Montessori to me is any child can learn.
Yes.
And they can learn at their own pace.
Right.
And it's very supported, self-directed. The child chooses what activity. And the teachers are directors, really. Mm-hmm. They're, not setting the path, but sort of guiding.
Yeah. We had this term we'd like to say, it's structured independence, where the teachers would allow the reasonable parameters, but your children have that freedom to explore within a reasonable, and to be productive, basically.
You were saying earlier about how there's a transition as they start very much in a Montessori philosophy, and there's a transition through the older grades. I'm wondering if you could tell me more about this transition and about what of those original Montessori ideas or values are kept and which ones evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Through CASA, grade 1, 2, and 3, they're still using the Montessori materials. And that's the incremental steps. So whether it's math or language just starts with tracing sandpaper letters, moving on to your phonetics, and that each step builds. So that they're very strong in these concepts each year as they move along. When they get to grade 3, they're starting at the end of the year to learn a little more traditionally, so that it's a smooth transition into grade 4, because that's the first time they're going to be given written tests. Up until then, they're not provided with marks. You get a report card that says developing well, needs improvement, that sort of thing. But the children's learning isn't focused on the grade. It's in those early years, but by the time they're grade 4 and they can understand that and what that really means, that's when they're getting more assignments and more traditional learning and assessments.
I'm wondering what you observed in your daughters as they went through that transitional time.
I personally was ecstatic how smoothly it went. I was envisioning, oh, what if she's very like not sleeping at night, or the whole world is falling apart. Never. In fact, she became a very independent student. She basically we don't need to prod our children. It's not like, well, what did you do tonight? Have you finished your work and everything? They basically come to us and I say, are you done your work? Yep. Need any help? Nope. and I'm very happy, obviously, to help them out what they do. But I am just amazed at the level of independence both of our daughters actually have at this stage of life. Really, it's quite, we're lucky.
It is.
Yes.
The other part of the transition is by the time they're in grade 4, there's even more specialty classes. So starting in CASA, there's already a specialty music teacher and French teacher. Grade 1, I think they add in computers and library. Grade 4, they add in our specialized art teacher where they get to go to the art room. And the next transition is in grade 7, where they're trying to prepare them for high school so it's not shocking.
Yes.
And they do it in a very, it is kind of in a Montessori way, increments. And though they're no longer using the Montessori materials, but they have all specialized teachers with specialized classes, but they move together as a unit, as a homeroom. They go through the day. Grade 8, they transition to rotating through their schedule independently. And in grade 7 and 8, that's when they start writing cumulative exams. So it's only worth 10% of their mark, but they're learning how to write an exam in a supportive environment. They learn how to prepare, and they do that sort of together so that they know how to study. And in grade 8, they're ready to write the bigger exams, because in grade 8, our children had the opportunity to take a grade 9 math course and a grade 9 computers course, which was amazing. And they were ready to write those exams.
I'm wondering, when you were comparing your options and going through that decision-making process, on the academic side in particular, what was it that made this school a better fit compared to others?
Academically?
What we found actually as we went along was the teachers know the strengths of your child. And if they're particularly gifted or have a special interest in there's many instances where they would give extension work, a little more advanced teaching to stimulate them further.
Or if they were struggling, there is the Learning Success Center where children can go if they need a little extra help.
That's right.
But I think academically early on, we knew it was a good school through reputation. We had other colleagues whose children went there, so we knew there was a strong academics. I have to say, for choosing a school when our children were so young, it had a lot to do with the respect, the character development, the behavioral support, the community. That actually weighed in a little bit more for me. I knew academically our children would succeed pretty much anywhere, but I wanted the respect, the behavior, the community, and that's the character education as much.
Plus, this is one of the private schools that does participate in a Cat 4 testing program. So you sort of had, I know it's not global, so you don't have a very thorough perspective, but at least you knew that they were on par, if not above par in many
usually
instances.
Above par.
I'm interested in that character piece. Do you have a special memory maybe, or a moment where you saw something take place, observe something with your daughters and go, okay, that's that character piece in action?
Oh, absolutely. We have our eldest daughter has a very, initially, her innately very timid approach. She's, as I said earlier, she likes to scope out the whole scenario. And it's kind of like when you're going in a pool. Do you dive in, or do you really slowly get in? Well, she would be the very slow to get in type. And this is something that we had raised actually on our teacher interviews about encouraging her, giving her, they're not coddling. Please don't get the wrong impression. They don't coddle your child, but they have this magic where they can positively reinforce your child, encourage them to the point where now there aren't struggles. She will take up projects on her own. She will have ideas of her own and pursue them. She will voice her opinions, well, as they do. But this was something innately that as a very young child, she'd be very timid. And it was just incredible to me just to see her just literally 180-degree character change. And that's education, that's teaching your child, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And every aspect is just watching the teachers interact with the children. There's plenty of times where parents can go into the school to help out with harvest lunch and that sort of thing, where as a community, I love harvest lunch because it starts when they're super little. They come together around Thanksgiving time. Everyone, contributes to the meal, but it's just that gratitude, being thankful for what you have. That is a constant discussion within the classroom.
Right.
A few years ago, they introduced mindfulness, so that it's wonderful to respect other people, but you have to really learn to be kind to yourself, especially when you tend to be a student that puts a lot of pressure on yourself. Learn that inner kindness too, right? Be kind to other people, but also be mindful.
Right.
I'm wondering, you've had many years of experience at this school. Your family's been all the way through, and soon your younger daughter will graduate as well. What's something that you've seen the school work on and improve over those years?
Oh, actually, in terms of one is space availability. Prior to their expansion, they had a recent expansion about a year ago. It was a crowded place. And they basically added in a lab, art room, music room. Now they provide actually band instruments, because on the earlier years, we had to go, everyone knew the place where to rent the instruments and whatnot. Now this is provided for them now through the school.
Yes. Well, early on, they didn't have a band program.
No.
But 2 years ago, when they did put the expansion in, they started with instrumental band. So
That's right.
That began. There was always been choir, the school play.
Yes. Evening of the Arts.
Evening of the Arts. So they always had those, but they've just expanded and improved them.
Yeah.
The art room has, better lighting.
Yes.
Beautiful space to work in.
Yeah. So that was the renovation added quite a bit. It literally, I think, doubled the size.
Yeah,
don't you
it
think?
did.
The space. Yeah.
And they've always had a great way of bringing in guest speakers, not just for the children in assemblies, but there's nights that the parents are involved as well, or invited to come. There's usually 1 or 2 a year.
Right.
And it's either early childhood psychologists dealing with stress for children, internet safety, social media safety. And so every year there's something for us to learn as well, which is important as your children are growing, because they don't come with manuals.
That's a really good point. Tell me something that you guys have learned as parents that you credit Rotherglen with teaching you.
Wow.
There's so much. It's hard to pick.
I think the biggest is how your child can teach you. Our children at our stage, I'm going to sound very old, but they're telling me how I can improve my use of my laptop. Social media uses, things to be careful about. They just keep coming home, and world affairs. They will come home and say, well, did you know over in here, and so this place, this is an issue now, and we'll have
let me focus this one for you.
Yes.
Something tangible and something intangible that you have both learned as parents through your family's experience there at the school.
Tangible, yeah.
Go ahead.
For me, tangible would be very much, we were just talking about internet safety.
Yeah.
I would think through what I do at work, I sort of have an idea of internet safety, but really in terms of how things are stored and kept. And even when the providers will say, well, we won't use this information. Don't worry, we won't, to know behind the scenes, but there is a possibility that this will be used. There is a possibility that this will be dug up later on, that sort of thing. So to me, that was quite an eye-opener. that, you know, just because you think the video's over, you deleted something, is it gone? No, it is not gone.
And these are things that you learned through the outreach they're doing for the kids.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's one. That's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intangible is just having that support, that if ever there was a time that I thought my daughter was struggling, or that there was something that could be improved, and I just didn't know how to proceed, you know, tackle it head on, back off a little bit, just having, many of them are also mothers, parents, just having that camaraderie of being able to say, this is what I think is going on. Do you agree? And just having that feedback and coming up with a plan together that will help support our daughter through a challenging time. I never felt unsupported, whether it was with the classroom teacher or whether it was administration going in to talk to the head of school, the vice head of school, or any of the programming. And I think that was the main thing, was just,
I don't know how they do it, but they really do know your child. It's not that you walk in and it's a nebulous kind of generic, you know, rehearsed speech that you're getting. They really do know your child quite well. I don't know how they do it, but they seem to do it.
Early on in the school year. You expect by the end of the year that teachers are going to know all the students. But from that first term, you get a phone call, and with just an update when they're sort of, you know, the first few weeks in, and we're always you're like, you know the quirks of our child, right? Like it's very early on, and that just develops throughout the school year.
Now, we spoke a moment ago about the improvements you've seen over the past decade, you know, the past years your family's been there. Looking ahead now, the next decade.
Yes.
Your parting advice to the school, your graduation gift of feedback. If you were to, you know, if you could wave a wand and help the school achieve what it needed to achieve for the next 10 years, what would be the things you would help it develop?
Build a high school.
Yes. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
It would be wonderful if the children could continue on. We're comfortable with what we have chosen, but that would be amazing to be able to have that same community continue for them. They're sort of out of space where their property is. It's sort of up on a hill. There's a ravine on one side, a forest on the other. Their parking lot.
Yeah, they do the best with what they can do. But this is a word of advice. If you come to this school, take your time in the parking lot, because it's not a parking lot that you'll want to race through, rush through. You know, they do their best to make a best of a difficult situation. They actually have hired crossing guards there.
They hire security guards to help direct traffic, but it's very busy. They have staggered starts and staggered pickups. And some children are there as early as 7:30 in the morning with before care. Some are there as late as 6 o'clock at night with aftercare. But for those of us who aren't using that, it's busy. Yeah. It's very busy.
Pick up, drop off. Lots of patience.
Pack your patience. Yes. Extra dose.
You know, you mentioned community, and that pickup drop-off moment makes me think of community and the families crossing paths at those different parts of the day. Tell me about the community you found outside of your girls' experiences.
Oh, amazing. Actually, ironically, the pickoff drop-off time, because I would park my car, walk my daughter back to the car, and we'd have a chat with a lot of the parents, catch up. It's social time for us. We actually have very busy jobs and very little time outside of our work to get together. And that alone, as pathetic as it may sound, was a great time for us to reconnect and update,
just catch up.
Catch up with what's going on around us.
We've made a lot of friendships, actually.
Oh,
I would
absolutely.
say.
Oh, yeah.
I think the school just attracts like-minded parents.
Tell me more about that. What is the common thread? The common threads about what attracts families to the school?
A positive, friendly attitude, really. Yes. Everyone's very friendly, outgoing, positive,
respectful.
But are there things they have in common in terms of what they're looking for when they enroll?
Oh, do you think?
Academics. Everyone everyone wants a strong academic program,
Yeah.
but everyone ends up being very grateful for the
Yeah.
character education.
Yeah.
And the community, the building the leadership possibilities, because by the time they're in grade 8, they can lead clubs.
Yes.
They can help with, you know, the younger students. They can pick legacy projects to work outside. There's community building within the classrooms, starting in grade 6. So I think it's leadership.
Yeah.
We all want our kids to be good in school, good leaders, be kind and respectful, and which is really generic for, I think, what every parent wants, but they just really come through.
Now, there's a number of specialty programs. We've alluded to a few of them already, and you know, there's French and there's arts and music, and like you said, the support for kids who need more challenge or more support. My question for you on this front is, of the ones, well, first, of the ones that exist, what's the one that's closest to your heart?
For our daughter, art.
Arts, probably.
Yeah.
For both of them.
For both.
They're both in band.
Is it that why we see paintings behind you?
Yes.
Actually, that's their work.
Yes.
These are their works.
Yes. Yeah. I would say Charlotte in the leadership in the arts this year, in grade 8, she was part of that committee.
Yes.
And for our younger one as well.
Yeah. And she's in band.
And band. Yeah. I'd say that the arts, that's our second child joins every club.
Yeah.
So, and they've been in everything from comic book club to robotics, gardening club.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh, there's so many over the years. It just enriches their time there.
That's right.
Now, I want to go back to that forward-looking, the next 10 years question.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to wave my magic wand and make you both the head of school for this coming decade.
Oh gosh.
So I've asked you what your favorite, you know, specialty areas are of what exists.
Right.
Yeah.
What's something that doesn't exist that with your, as head of school, you would introduce?
Wow. That's hard to think.
That is hard to think of.
Well, I'm always partial to sciences. So, and again, this is going beyond. These are usually obviously post, you know, it's usually in the secondary school categories, but really in-depth sciences like the chemistries, that sort of thing. I think that would be very, it just gives an extra view of how the world works, basically. Biology is, they're quite in depth, but they could take, you know, there is always space, I think, when it comes to sciences to take it to the next level. But given how quickly kids seem to learn at a very young age, I personally don't see a harm if the child is capable of understanding very well in much more greater detail than just a little more deep, in-depth sciences to be available. To be, and you know, that may sound a little outlandish, but I'm all into.
No, but as imaginary head of school,
yes,
you would, you know, invest in a crazy, like, hyper awesome
right.
lab or
right,
lab or,
exactly.
You know, yeah, it could be any number of things, like you say, but there's always the opportunity to level up in terms of gear and specialty.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, other thing I would say, I don't know if this applies or not, we didn't talk about that ahead, is we went outside of the school to have the giftedness testing.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That would be nice if that had been offered in the school.
Yeah.
Just because it is offered in the public school system. So by a certain time, your child would be identified.
Yeah. That's right. That is something we independently need.
We sought that out ourselves.
But once we got the results, the school was amazing to follow through with the information provided. They were quite exceptional.
Yeah. But if that could be somehow incorporated into their assessments.
Yeah.
Neat. But that speaks, I guess, to the present strength that we talked about as far as their adaptability in giving a student the greater challenge they need or the greater support or adapting like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Both really good answers. Thank you. Let's see. Again, with your imaginary head of school hats on.
You're really testing us today.
Well, I'm signing you up for another very busy job for the next decade, so you better be ready. I want to know a strength that you would double down on.
Oh,
Like we talked about things that aren't there that you would invest in. What's something that is there that you'd invest in?
the current staff. I hope they can keep the current staff. They are uniformly incredible. We have had much earlier on schools where they got their reputation through one or two very excellent educators. But this place seems to have the very fortuitous scenario of having uniformly excellent staff. So I would do everything to hold on to their current staff, particularly in the upper years.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very impressed with the approach in terms of knowledge base, support when needed, no support when not needed, actually. And that's something I think very important to allow them to be more independent as they get older, and recognizing that. So I really hope that they can hold on to their current staff and the administration too.
In the administration, yes.
Yeah.
They've already been tested this year with COVID.
Yeah.
Our kids were off for 2 weeks at March break. They realized midway through that time that they wouldn't be going back to the physical space. They were up and running. The kids should have been back to school on the Monday. They were up and running on the Tuesday.
Right.
And the adaptability they've shown, obviously they had to figure it out as they went along in some aspects. But now that we know that this is a possibility, is building on the strengths that they've learned through this time, and the support that they can give the kids, which has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they can improve it, but but just these contingency plans and having them in place, because they really had to, they scrambled and they got the program up and running.
How they could make a test, an exam, or like over the internet. It's like, what? But they succeeded. They really did. And it was, as weird as it sounds, I think it came out as seamless as it could have been. I really did.
I don't know how they would improve it, but just strengthening maybe, because they have computers and technology that starts in grade 1. Yeah. That's why our children were able to adapt so quickly to learn from home.
Right.
They were already fairly proficient. Yeah. But maybe just taking those technologies, and they have been improving the technologies with the new wing. They have a bigger lab. They've always had a Mac lab, but they've just expanded that, and the coding and the teaching and whatnot.
Right.
But a really good point that the situation, as we speak during the coronavirus pandemic times, in 2020, we have seen how important it is to have that infrastructure and that technological backbone ready in place for when something does happen.
That's right.
So that's a very good point. If you could pick up the phone right now and talk to yourselves 10 years ago, however long, when you were making this decision and trying to choose between Rotherglen and all the other ones on the list, what's the message you would give yourselves thinking about what you're going through at that time?
I would just, I'm already so grateful to the school. I mean, I'm not trying to sound very corny about this, but I think that'll build in the years that come. And I really hope and think our daughter will continue on the path that she's on already. And I think a lot of that has to do with the early teachings, really. And so I think that just the gratefulness will build. I'm already extremely, extremely grateful for what they provided for us. But without any, obviously, ties with the school or anything later on, 10 years later, I think I'll even feel stronger about that. I really will. Yeah.
I'd probably say to myself, just stop worrying.
I've already stopped.
But 10 years ago, did we make the right choice? Are we doing the right thing? Right? All those things that young parents go through, right? Is just trust the system.
Yes.
Listen.
That's it.
Just keep your ears open, and just be open-minded to the possibilities, and just let your children be who they're going to be and succeed.
Yeah, I think Leigh said a very important thing is trust. I have experienced over the years, just complete trust. If they suggest something, they're probably good. They're going to be bang on under that. And I think that's the thing that's most comforting, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. For us.
Yeah.